Everyone, for OneWrestling.com, this is Bill Apter, and a very special guest with me today, Jerry the King Lawler. How you doing, King?
Why am I so special today, Bill?
Well, you're special every day. Every day. But you're a special guest today, actually.
I did a radio show earlier this afternoon, and they said, the man that needs no introduction, but if I don't give him one, he'll probably pile drive me. Yeah?
Oh, that's right. That's right. I didn't think of that. But you need no introduction, and gosh, I've known you since about 1979, I believe it is.
Oh, I thought it was before that, Bill.
Actually, I met you the first time at a Pedro Martinez show, so it had to be the mid-'70s. That's right, New Jersey.
It was mid-'70s, because I remember, when I was first. I don't even remember where I was getting them, but some people would take some pictures of my matches down here. I don't think we had at that time in the early '70s. I don't think we had a staff photographer or anything, but I would get some pictures, maybe from fans or whatever, and I would send them to you in your magazines. And you're the guy that kind of put me on the map as far as nationwide exposure for the first time through your work at your magazines back then. I mean, back then it was when all the companies were different local territories. It was hard to get any kind of national exposure, but you helped me kind of break that barrier.
Well, I appreciate that, and I was, part of a great team back then of, The Wrestler, Inside Wrestling, eventually Pro Wrestling Illustrated. So, it was a great time. There was no pay-per-view. You had to go and see a big match either live or on closed circuit TV. So it was a whole different world.
Yes, it was. I mean, a lot of people. I get this comment every single day. Boy, wrestling's just not like it used to be, is it? And no, but in reality, nothing is. What really changed, not just the face of wrestling, but really the face of our entire world environment and our society was cable television. Suddenly there was that worldwide exposure for not just wrestling, but for everything. Suddenly, you have all these news channels, and we're seeing things that before, when there were just three stations to watch on television, you didn't see all of this stuff that was going on all around the world. And so, I mean, it really changed the world, and it changed wrestling, and so that's been the big difference. This worldwide exposure to cable and satellite television.
Yeah, there were two things that really changed wrestling. One of those was cable TV, and the other was a guy named Vince McMahon Jr.
Well, yeah, but you know what? I mean, and I'm certainly not taking anything away from Vince McMahon, but Vince was Vince McMahon and Vince McMahon Jr. before cable television, but they were, they had the Northeast territory at that time, and Bruno Sammartino was probably the longest running champion for the McMahons ever. But down here in Memphis, Tennessee, and in Oklahoma, and out in California, and then up in Minneapolis, those people, the only place we ever heard of Bruno Sammartino was if we saw him in magazines. The advent of cable TV is what allowed Vince McMahon to go nationwide, and that put the entire his entire territory as what's before that was like a local territory, suddenly became the worldwide promotion.
Yeah. Now, just deviating a bit from history, one of the main reasons that I wanted to talk to you today is something to do with your artwork. But before we talk about that, the whole wrestling world is still buzzing about
the fact that I'm going to be the Grand Marshal in the Memphis Christmas Parade, right?
Well, it depends on when you're hearing and watching this particular video.
Right. Well, of course, it's Saturday. Saturday, I will be Saturday, December 4th. It's a great honor for me, Bill. I mean, this is our version of the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. It's the 75th annual Memphis Christmas Parade, and ordinarily, I think last year the newly elected mayor of the city of Memphis was the Grand Marshal. This year they've asked me to be the Grand Marshal. Marshall. It's going to be the biggest Christmas parade in the history of Memphis. Over 100 floats, 26 marching bands. It's going to be just like a huge parade. And I get to lead the parade in a 1969 vintage red Cadillac, wearing my old school red crown, an outfit that I wore on the old school Raw a couple of weeks ago. And I am really, really excited about this. There's going to be thousands and thousands of Memphians lining the streets. And, of course, I'll be in the front of the parade, and good old Santa and his reindeer will be at the end of it. So it's going to be a neat thing for me Saturday.
So you want to invite everybody to, and where exactly? Where in Memphis? Where in Memphis is this?
Oh, it's right down Main Street and ends at the Orpheum Theater on Beale Street in Memphis. It's like you can't miss it.
Okay, so again, if you're listening to this before December 4th, make sure you're there. And if it's after December 4th, what a great time you had, right?
Oh, it was so wonderful. It was the greatest thing ever.
It was incredible.
Yes, it was.
One of the things that I want...
Did it rain, Bill?
No, it was a beautiful day because the king had proclaimed that it was going to be beautiful out.
There you go.
See that? One of the reasons I wanted to speak with you, as I was mentioning, was something about your artwork. But before we get to that, I want to talk to you about something that happened so recently, and that, of course, was your match against The Miz on Monday Night Raw. We can't avoid talking about this. The wrestling world is still buzzing about. Here you are on your 61st birthday.
You had to mention that, didn't you?
Yeah.
You just said it was my birthday?
Young 61. But going into the ring against the WWE champion, who was, quite a bit younger than you, and keeping...
Less than half my age.
Less than half your age, keeping up with him in the ring so well, and putting on one of the most exciting matches that I've seen in years, when you and he were at the top of the ladder, since it was a table, ladders, and chairs match with the belt suspended from the ceiling there. When the two of you were reaching for that belt, I was getting old school goosebumps. Now, a lot of people have asked me, how does he do it? And I think part of your secret, which is no longer a secret now that we're talking about it on OneWrestling.com here, is that you've never stopped. A lot of guys step away from the business for 5 years, they get in there, and they can't keep up, they can't do it. But you never really stopped, did you?
Well, no, Bill, I didn't. I've been wrestling for 40 years now, and when I say that, I can't believe I'm talking about myself. And also, when I say that I'm 61 years old, it seems like, it just can't be possible. I swear to you, I feel like I feel the same way I did when I was 20 years old. I've been incredibly fortunate and lucky that I haven't had any major injuries that have cost me any mobility. I've gone all my career without any major knee injuries. I've never had knee surgery or anything like that. So, I've been incredibly fortunate with that. The other thing is, Bill, a lot of people don't realize, and sometimes when I tell people, they don't believe it. I have never in my life ever even tasted, not one sip, not one drink of any kind of alcohol. No beer, no wine, no whiskey, nothing. Never drank, never did any drugs, never did never had a cigarette of any kind, even in my hand, much less smoke one. So I've lived a pretty clean lifestyle, and I really attribute that to the longevity that I've had in my wrestling career and in the wrestling ring. Plus the fact that, as you said, most of the people around the rest of the country, they just know me as the Monday Night Raw color commentator. They don't realize that on other nights of the week, I'm still out there wrestling. I do live events for the WWE. I do some independent shows. We still have, we've had a promotion. We just finished 15 weeks of television, doing television wrestling here in my home city of Memphis. So I do still wrestle once, at least once, sometimes twice, every single week, and I have for the past 40 years. And it's like you said, it's something that if I were to say, hey, I'm retired and I'm going to step away from this thing for maybe, like months, or whatever, and then try to come back, it would be difficult to do. But like you said, I've never stopped, and I still enjoy it as much as I did when I first started. It's a tremendous amount of fun to go out there and perform in front of great wrestling fans.